Welcome to this very special edition of the War on Black Money and what it really means today to you. On the show today, I'm joined right now by Kartik Jhaveri of Transcend Consulting. We're going to talk about how you make that transition as an average investor and an average taxpayer. And we'll help you with the problems that you might be facing at this point. Kartik, a very detailed release came out from the RBI yesterday that talked about the process of actually changing money. It's very clear to us now that the RBI is pushing us towards a sort of an era where we only use formal payment services. So we only use our checks or our cards or online payment, because the actual availability of cash is going to come down tremendously over the next couple of weeks. We'll only be able to change 4,000 rupees in cash. Everything else will have to be deposited into our bank accounts. And we'll only be able to draw 10,000 rupees from the bank at a time. So that gives us, any Indian, total cash allowance of 14,000 rupees a day. That's really going to change the way we spend our money in this country, isn't it?
Aluminum, copper, steel, plastic.
Yes, that's also obviously just for the immediate little bit of about 15-20 days. It's not going to be like a perpetual thing, but this is for the first 15 days. This is what we are going to see. That's the 4,000 allowances and things like that. The ATM will be restricted to 2,000. If you go manually to the branch, then you can't do more than 20,000 a week. So all of that is just for an interim measure. So I am assuming that when there are more notes which will come under circulation, when that will happen, obviously your leverage will also go up. You will be able to use far more cash than you are able to use today. And I think in a couple of months, when things will normalize with a new routine of payments, of course, cash will be accessible once again. So I don't think that's going to be a problem going forward, Faye.
In fact, we're opening up our phone lines this evening again. There'll be a phone line at the bottom of your screen. So if you have a question on how you can change money or how you should deal with the change over the next couple of weeks, then pick up the phone and call us. Our phone line will be on your screen. Rajiv, I'm told, is on the phone line from Pune right now with a question for us. Rajiv, good evening. What's your question?
Yeah, good evening. My question is, depositing these old notes, is the facilities available wherever your bank account is? That includes the cooperative banks as well as the foreign banks, apart from the nationalized banks. That is what I understand. Am I correct in assuming that?
Well, going by the RBI release, I think you're correct there, Rajiv. So basically, you have to go back to the branch, to the bank which has your bank account, and provided you've done all your KYC, there's an unlimited amount that you can deposit into that bank account. If you've not done your KYC, then that limit gets gets stopped at 50,000 rupees. Kartik, there's been a lot of worry, of course, about NRIs, people who are overseas right now. If they have money, or if some of their money is, at home in India, how do they get that sorted out? What sort of relief is the RBI offering NRIs at this point?
So what the RBI is saying, and what the directives have been, is that if you can authorize somebody on your behalf to go to the branch, and obviously this is a written authorization, so you send a courier with a written letter saying that please allow so and so person, maybe identifying him with his PAN number or some other identification document. Let some representative of yours go to the bank and deposit your old notes into your NRO account. Of course, NRE accounts cannot take any credits. So that is one way of doing it. Now you have a substantial amount of window for that. So obviously time from now till about the end of this calendar year, which is about 50 days. And beyond that, if you're still not able to do it, you've got another 3 months. And for that, there will be a little more inconvenience to the representative or if you're coming yourself as well. But then you will have to go to a designated outlet or a location of the RBI, and that will be the collecting location. And of course, you'll have to fill up a form. So in all sense, if there is everything that is legitimate, there is nothing to worry about, and you can go ahead and deposit your foreign exchange, Indian notes that you might have, and you can go ahead and deposit that into your NRO accounts.
Well, Kartik, obviously for people who are traveling right now, who are overseas at this point, who might be on holiday, who might be on short-term travel. We've had some phone calls and we've had some concerns saying that, what do we do? What if we don't come back in time? Then is the money that we're holding completely useless? obviously they can make that change up till March next year. So there's an extra 3 months, although they'll have to go personally to the RBI office to get it done. But what advice would you give someone who's traveling overseas at this point, who might not be back before the 30th of December?
For somebody who's traveling, and for that matter, anyone and everyone else, what is happening is there is a lot of excitement. This excitement is actually negative excitement. It's a lot of panic and concern, and which is quite understandably. But everyone really needs to take a deep breath and really calm down. It's not that all hell has broken loose. You have old notes with you, that's absolutely fine. We are all expected to have, and we can all have substantial amounts of it based on our circumstances that we have at home. So I don't think there is any reason for you to worry. You have 50 days plus another 180 days, so in all 230 days available. And if your travel just does not permit here, then authorization is there. Otherwise, whenever you come down, it's perfectly okay. You will have time and sufficient time in hand to go and do that. In any case, I do not advise people, and I have been saying that this whole day today, that don't be in a rush to go and just go ahead and deposit your money, because there will be a long queue and there will be a lot of trouble that you will have to face through if you try and start depositing your money from tomorrow onwards as soon as the bank opens. So take your time. There's no rush. You can go after a week, you can go after 2 weeks, there's no problem. And for your usual requirements, of course, you can write out a check or use your ATM card to withdraw some amount of money. And naturally, of course, the government is asking us to change our habits to electronic mode of payments. But other than that, I don't think people who are traveling should be utterly, unreally kind of confused or concerned or anything of that sort. You don't need to worry so much. I think you're absolutely fine.
Well, actually, the big message that's going out from the channel is that if you are a tax-paying citizen of India, then you really have no reason to panic, because there is no situation under which the money that you have in your hand right now, if it is KYC declared tax paid money, that money is not going to go to waste. You can, as soon as the banks open, deposit any amount of cash back into your bank account, if you have the right KYC and if you can prove where that money has come from, provided of course that it is white declared taxed money. Hari Narayan is on the phone line from Bikaner right now. He has a question for us. Hari Narayan, go ahead. What's your question?
मैं हिंदी में बात करूंगा।
हाँ जी, बोलिए। आपका सवाल क्या है?
मेरा सवाल ये है कि जैसे गवर्नमेंट ने एक का एक ये पाबंदी लगा दी नोटों के ट्रांजैक्शन पर
जी।
अब हम लोग जैसे बीकानेर से मैं बॉम्बे आया हूँ, अब हमारे पास नेचुरली गर्मी में लोग बड़े नोट लेके ही चलते हैं। अब यहाँ टैक्सी वाला एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता, कोई होटल वाला एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहा, कोई और, तो ये तो हम लोगों के यूं समझो हम जैसे लोगों के लिए तो लाखों लोग दिल्ली के ट्रेवलिंग में है, तो उनके लिए तो बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो गई। इसी तरह से मेरे अभी एक फ्रेंड से बात हुई, उसकी बीकानेर में उसकी वो लड़की की शादी है, तो वो कह रहा था कि हमारा तो शादी का सारा प्रोग्राम मतियामेट हो रहा है, क्योंकि कोई भी बंदा खुले में लेने को छोटे नोट बड़े नोट लेने को तैयार नहीं है। अब मतलब ये सरकार ने कैसे मान लिया कि देश का आम आदमी का ब्लैक मनी रखता है? अगर सरकार को मान लो ब्लैक मनी या फेक मनी के लिए कार्रवाई करनी थी, तो इसके रास्ते कुछ और हो सकते थे। आम आदमी उनके साथ है, लेकिन आम आदमी को सरकार क्यों प्रताड़ित कर रही है? अब 2 दिन कम नहीं होते किसी देश की करेंसी को इस तरह से रोक देना, जबकि 86-87% देश की करेंसी है वो 1000 और 500 का नोट है, अगर एक आंकड़ा देखा जाए तो। अब 86-87% की करेंसी को एक का एक रोक देना ब्लैक मनी के नाम पर, मान लो सरकार के पास और भी साधन है ब्लैक मनी के, पर आम आदमी को क्यों इन्वॉल्व किया इस परेशानी में? और आम आदमी इतना परेशान हो रहा है, किसी को मान लो सब्जी लानी हो तो किसी और को लाना, हर एक के पास मान लो 150 के नोट daily life.
Okay. Kartik, this is a good question that he's asking. Basically, people who are traveling right now, we have a lot of people who are facing this inconvenience. Where even though Kartik, we should point this out, even though the Prime Minister himself announced just yesterday that petrol stations will accept your 1,000 rupee notes, petrol stations stopped accepting it. Pumps was not accepting 1,000 rupee notes yesterday. Even there's a certain amount of panic in the market right now where you're not able to spend at all. And for someone who doesn't have a card or has a card right now and does not have access to an ATM because ATMs are closed, what are people supposed to do over the next 2 days? How are they supposed to get through the next 2 days? And if you are in your own home in which case certain, necessities of food and milk and water will be taken care of. But if you're traveling, that really leaves you in a terrible situation. And Harinarayan is right. Several Indians right now are going to feel a little, a little disillusioned with this big move that affects every Indian so drastically.
आई कम्प्लीटली अग्री विथ यू. हरिहरन भी जो कह रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल जायज़ है कि बड़ी परेशानी होती है. बट थिंक अबाउट इट दिस वे दैट this is the trouble only for today. I am given to understand, and I believe so, that the banks mostly across the country, in large metro cities, in larger branches of smaller cities, everywhere the money has already reached, or it's already on the way to reaching those branches. So tomorrow morning, as soon as the banks open, firstly from the bank the money will be available. ATMs may still not be functional, but the banks will be able to be in a situation to exchange your money. Now what happens is, whenever we are traveling, we are always carrying some sort of identification proof. It could be our PAN card, it could be Aadhaar, it could be driving license, it could be some identification that we are carrying with us. So for the immediate requirement tomorrow morning, as soon as the banks open, we will be in a position to exchange up to rupees 4,000 from any branch. Now I understand 4,000 is not a huge sum of money, but having said that, there will at least be some amount of liquidity which will start happening on a day-to-day basis. I think as I hear the whole day's news, people are making their own little adjustments with their grocers and things like that, okay, we'll pay you in 2-3 days time as soon as we have some money and liquidity in our hand. So tomorrow morning banks are opening, and not only a lot of banks are opening with multiple cash tellers, as I am given to understand. So as soon as the banks open, from your usual 1 or 2 tellers or 1 or 2 cashiers, you might actually see half a dozen of them dispensing money through checks. So if you are in your base city, nothing to worry too much. If you are not in your base city, which is if you are traveling, if you are in any other city, you can actually pretty much visit the branch of your bank, any branch of your bank, and they will be happy to do this exchange for you. In fact, they've gone even one step further and said, if you do not find a branch of your bank, you can go to any other bank, provide them this identification, and then exchange your money. So for tomorrow, you can tide over that. Day after, again do the same procedure. So yes, there is an inconvenience. बड़ी दिक्कत होगी 1-2 दिन के लिए.
हरिनारायण जी, अभी जो हाल है, अभी कल सुबह बैंक खुलेगी, सारी बैंक ही खुलेंगी, और आप किसी भी बैंक में जा सकते हो. ये भी ज़रूरत नहीं कि आप अपने ही बैंक में जाओ और अपने ही बैंक के ब्रांच में जाओ. आप किसी भी बैंक के ब्रांच में जाओ. अगर आप मुंबई में हो तो काफ़ी सारे बैंक ब्रांचेस होंगे, और आप 4,000 रुपये तक चेंज कर सकते हैं. अपने पुराने नोट दे के नए नोट पा सकते हो. आपके पास, आपके हाथ में अपनी गवर्नमेंट आईडी होनी चाहिए, कोई भी गवर्नमेंट आईडी, और एक फॉर्म भरनी चाहिए. आपको ये फॉर्म मिलेगा आपके बैंक से. आप पैसे चेंज कर सकते हो, तो आपके हाथ में 4,000 रुपये आ जाएंगे. और उसके बाद अगर आपको चाहिए तो फिर आप एटीएम से या अपने बैंक के ब्रांच से आप पैसे ड्रॉ कर सकते हो. अगर आप खुद बैंक जाओगे अपने बैंक में ड्रॉ करने के लिए, तो आपको दिन का 10,000 रुपये आप ड्रॉ कर सकते हो. वो आपका लिमिट है. तो बस ये जो दिक्कत हो रही है, मैं मानती हूँ कि दिक्कत हो रही है, बस एक दिन की है. कल सुबह तक बैंक ओपन होगी. एंड you should let our viewers know that the RBI has instructed banks to call back retired employees for the next couple of weeks if they have to, in order to, like Kartik was telling us, staff more tellers so that more people are available to change and to help you withdraw money and to help you deposit money if you have to. So banks have been told that this process is top priority. It takes priority over everything else, and they have to make sure that they're not just staffed adequately, but they're overstaffed so that nobody has to wait in line and there isn't too much of a loss of productivity. Krishnamurthy is on the phone line from Hyderabad. Krishnamurthy, go ahead. What's your question?
Good evening, everybody. I have 2 questions to ask and 2 doubts to be clarified. The thing is, will the new notes have any time limitation for that? Any expiry date? For in countries like Zimbabwe, in Africa, they have a limitation of the notes. Currency notes, they print even $1 million. They have the lifetime limit of every calendar year for every note.
Okay.
Thereafter, it is useless. They have few currency notes, even $1 million, $2 million notes, $10 million notes. Because they are useless. I collected some of them because I am a collector.
Krishnamurthy, what's your question specifically?
Will the new currency have the expiry date on that so that it can curb the black money? That's one. And second thing is whether it is a plastic currency, plastic paper or an ordinary white paper which you are printing right now.
Okay, what paper will the currency be printed on? Well, none of us have seen the new currency right now, but the RBI release tells us that it will be far less susceptible to forgery. So there would be fewer, fewer fake notes doing the rounds, or no fake notes doing the rounds at all. But we haven't really seen the quality of the paper. None of us have actually seen it. Hasn't been released yet. As far as the expiry date is concerned, Kartik, Krishnamurthy is asking us if the new currency will come with an expiry date. I don't believe that's practice in India at all. Have you heard anything about an expiry date of the new currency?
No, unfortunately, there is nothing of that sort. Ordinarily, what we see is the date or the year specifically in which that note was manufactured, or so to say printed. So we normally see that as a notation, and which is what we've seen in the last few years of printing of these currency notes. But beyond that, we don't have an expiry date that this is going to, it's like a legal tender, and the tender goes on and on for years together till such time that the government decides that now this note or this particular note will not be in legal tender and it has to be changed by another note. But until such time, the notes will continue to be accepted, and that's pretty standard. So if a note is not withdrawn, and then if you go to that country also after maybe 20 years, that note will still be accepted. So I don't see that as an issue.
All right, so that's not an issue. Anshu is on the phone line from Mumbai with a question for us. Anshu, go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi. My question is that I have gone through the RBI circular quite a multiple times, and every time I can see that the 4,000 rupees per person is the limit on exchange. It doesn't qualify whether it is daily. So you mean to say a person can go to his or her bank branch and exchange 4,000 multiple times, like 5 times, 10 times, because that per day is not there. That word per day is missing.
That is true. It doesn't say, you're absolutely right, Anshu. Nowhere in the entire release of the RBI does it say per day, per week. It just says, and I'm quoting, that a specified banknote aggregate value of 4,000 or below may be exchanged for having legal tender character. You have to fill in a requisition slip, and you have to have proof of identity, and per transaction I would assume that it's 4,000 rupees. Kartik, she's absolutely right. There's no there's no specification saying that you can only change once a day or once a week or per transaction. So do you believe that the process of sending multiple family members to different bank branches to keep changing 4,000 rupees, although you do have to have your ID card and that slip, which will be filed, and what we understand will find its way in eventually has to be reported to the RBI. But is there a loophole there that Anshu has found for us?
Not exactly. See, we are extremely good, and I'm sure the back end is, in terms of technology, is also very, very sophisticated. So firstly, if you're exchanging 4,000 at your own bank branch, then obviously you're doing that because you have a bank account, you have a bank relationship with that. So on that account number, it's already registered that there has been an exchange. So now for a case in point, let's say 4 family members have 4 different accounts in the branch, then surely you can do that. Let's extend this thing. If you have an account in 2 different banks, as an example, if you have an account in Axis Bank and an ICICI Bank and a Dena Bank and a Punjab National Bank, maybe then you can go to 4 different banks because you've got 4 different accounts there. So in each bank, so that is what I am also assuming is going to be valid. But you yourself on your PAN card may not be able to go multiple times to the same bank. If you are going to another bank, then obviously the other banking is asking you for credentials. Yes.
No, Kartik, so I can go to any branch of any bank and post offices and change up to 4,000 rupees at a time. So how many multiple transactions will I be allowed as one individual with one government ID?
That's right. So they will record your ID somewhere that you have changed, because that's where I'm saying that the technology should be extremely sophisticated. How are they going to track this thing? We still don't know. And as soon as things open tomorrow, and we will understand a little more in terms of how are they tracking these exchanges at various places, because everybody will need currency. So if a single person went multiple times and started using more of the currency, obviously this is going to be a deprivation to some other people to wanting to use currency. So I'm sure there will be some checks in place, but as soon as tomorrow we see this thing happening in multiple branches, we'll get a better idea of what is this happening. But I'm sure you can go to all your bank accounts and do that. So if you've got 3 bank accounts, I'm sure you can do it at those bank accounts. So that I think should be absolutely possible.
All right, so for right now, Anshu, you're right, we don't know how many transactions each individual will be allowed. But while we have to, show our government ID and fill out, handwrite a form, which basically has a signature, a name, you have to tick the, the proof of identification that you're showing. I don't know how all of that is going to be collated and who's going to cross-verify, all of that information. But you're right, for the time being, there is no limit on the number of transactions that each individual can do to withdraw or to change 4,000 rupees at a time. From your bank, of course, once you've done your 4,000 rupees, the rest of the money that you have has to be deposited straight into your bank account. But there's no limit on how much money you can deposit into your bank account at any given point of time. Rajesh Kumar is on the phone line from Ghaziabad. Rajesh?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, I want to know whether bank loans or bank loan accounts are this PPF accounts will accept this cash or not?
Well, do you pay your loan, Rajesh, in cash at any point? Isn't your loan directly deducted from your bank account?
Pardon?
Your loan EMIs are hardly ever paid by cash. Most of the time, they're deducted directly from your bank account. So how would you make a loan payment with with the old notes?
We can't payment.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just take that question to Kartik. Kartik, obviously, right now, any sort of loan that you have or any PPF payment that you need to make, all of these payments are being done ECS, or deducted directly from the linked bank account. So I don't think the question arises at all about whether or not you can make a loan payment with the old notes, because nobody ever makes these payments by cash.
Absolutely right, Faye. I mean, it's always directly debited. In fact, it's one of the greatest security measures for every bank to ensure that the person who's borrowed the money pays back to the bank on time at this right date, at the right methodology and all of that. So there's no question of anybody paying in cash. However, talking about the PPF, since you just mentioned PPF, I know there are a lot of people who actually go to the bank branch and pay a cash amount into PPF. But what's the rush? I mean, just wait for another 3 or 4 days and then go next week to make your PPF payment if you really have to do your PPF payment by cash. So I don't think that's something that you should worry about like immediately tomorrow or day after. And PPF account you can deposit through the whole year. So if you're even in a situation where you're depositing monthly, maybe just wait for a couple of days and deposit next week, or maybe deposit 2 months contribution in 1 month, which is the next month, which is December. So and deposits anyways, they won't have any restriction on deposits. So why should you be worried about the depositing of any money? Now, if he's talking about depositing the old notes into PPF account, maybe the bank may not accept it. So you'll just again have to wait for 3-4 days, get new fresh currency, and then maybe use that currency to make a deposit into the PPF
So Kartik,
account.
here's an interesting question. I had someone just send me a text message saying, shouldn't banks stay open through Saturday and Sunday this week in order to provide customers with a certain level of convenience? Have you heard anything from a bank of staying open on Saturday and Sunday at all?
No, nothing fair, nothing so far. But I think, a lot of times, a lot of people are thinking in terms of depositing the money, because that seems to be a concern. And then they are thinking that, let me rush to the bank and deposit the money. So then, if you may allow me, I just want to sort of clarify that if you have to deposit money, there is no restriction as long as you can prove that there is an audit trail, which means that you have either withdrawn some money in the past, you have it with you, and therefore you're depositing, or you're a business person who's got some cash in hand on your books, which you have actually is your legitimate cash which you are holding or which you had withdrawn, which you can then deposit. Or if you're a housewife and if you have some savings, then you can deposit. But all said and done, everybody need not be in a rush. Right now, the most urgent thing for most people and all of us would be to have some few notes in our hand by which we can take care of our day-to-day requirements, and for which the bank is going to provide us a facility from tomorrow. Now, I'd be really happy if they did operate on a Saturday and Sunday, but that again is not such a big concern, because what we need right now is some amount of liquidity from a bank branch. If you have your checkbook, they'll happily give you 10,000 rupees in your hand.
Right.
And then if you have an ATM, you
for
can...
a second, because there's an RBI circular
Yes.
that's come out about 20 minutes ago that says banks will remain open on Sunday this weekend. That's confirmed that you will be able to access your bank on Saturday and on Sunday. So if you're concerned about that, that's one good piece of news that we get to give you this evening. Banks will remain open over the weekends. Praveen is on the phone line from Chennai. That's our last question. Praveen, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, tell me. Good evening.
Praveen,
Good evening.
yeah, good evening. What's your question, Praveen?
I want to withdraw some
Yes,
cash
Praveen, good
after
evening.
pledging some gold loan in bank. If I pledge some gold worth of 3 lakhs, will I get the cash? Or because limit has been reached to 10,000 rupees per day?
No. What do you want to do again, Praveen? I didn't understand your question.
No. I will pledge some gold in the bank for worth of 3 lakhs. Will I get the cash in return?
Okay, so what you are asking for is you basically want to get a loan against gold, and you want to know if you can raise about 3 lakh rupee cash in return. Kartik, what's the decision on that right now? I'm assuming again, even if you pledge gold, the bank doesn't give you cash; it just transfers some money into your account, and then again you're back to having to withdraw that money at 10,000 rupees per day, which is your allotment. Is that how it will work, or if he does hand over gold, will he have a larger allotment?
No, I think that this is I think there are 2 or 3 facts which I think Praveen has mixed up together. So when you are giving gold to the bank, you are actually getting into a product which is known as a loan against gold as a collateral. So therefore you place the gold, the bank values it and then gives you a certain percentage of that gold, typically 60 to 80% of the money as a withdrawal. You are able to withdraw it. Then that's a loan and you can do pretty much what you want to do with it. So that's a completely separate product, a completely legitimate and official thing happening. So there is nothing to say that there is an interference in the regular banking operations. That by all means can happen. But just for your interim requirement, tomorrow if you say that I am going to give you X amount of gold and therefore you give me money, may not really happen. Maybe the banks would actually, because of the liquidity situation, may not be able to give you cash withdrawal. But if you want to have a loan electronically credited into your bank savings account against placing a security of gold, which means you are getting a loan against gold, that would absolutely work. That shouldn't be a problem.
So if you do take a loan against gold, and given the mode in which the banking system is moving, it's likely to be credited into your bank account, in which case you will still have to withdraw it like everybody else is withdrawing it. Pledging gold is not going to give you more access to cash in the next 2 weeks than anybody else. But we will continue to take calls on the phone number that was on your screen, and we'll continue to do shows. In fact, tomorrow we invite audiences into our studio. We'll have a live audience and you can ask your questions if you'd like to join us. Phone numbers on your screen. Call us and we'll send you an invitation and you can spend some time with us in the studio asking your question. That's a wrap on this show. Thank you for watching.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.